Hello everyone, this is Jesse here, and I'm going to present to you another presentation under the astronomy playlist, biblical astronomy, and in this topic we're going to be talking about 360 days versus 365 days. And we're going to be basically covering the topic of the sundial of Ahaz going 10 degrees backwards, and how that correlates to what modern science has depicted of a change that happened around the 8th century BC. Now, obviously, science ain't gonna want to use the Bible to prove this fact, but it's kind of funny how science comes up with these discoveries, and yet you can find these discoveries in the Bible of how they happened. Now, also, we're going to cover the aspect of, are we going to be going back to a 360-day calendar year? There's a lot of very interesting things that'll come of this, and I think it's very important that we kind of dive into this to see what could transpire here in the latter days. So 360 versus 365, the sundial of Ahaz miracle. Now, most will agree that at creation there were 12 30-day months, as we prove from the book of Genesis. So what caused the moon's rotation to change and make it only a 29.5-day rotation? Well, recently science now claims that this change happened somewhere around 700 BC, which is very interesting. What happened around 700 BC that could have changed the course of the celestial bodies? Well, the answer is that was the time when Hezekiah asked God to move the sundial back 10 degrees. Here is an insert from the book Science, Origins, and Ancient Civilizations by Gary Burney, page 47, which states, it is interesting to note that around this period of 700 BC is also when the 360-day calendar had to be changed to 365.25 days. And the 30-day moon cycle was changed to 29.5 days. Prior to this period of 700 BC, the 360-day calendar with a 30-day moon cycle was used by nations all over the world, including Arabia, Assyria, Babylonia, China, Egypt, Greece, India, Japan, Mexico, Palestine, Persia, Peru, and Rome. Some of these ancient cultures are known to have possessed knowledge of square roots and trigonometry, and therefore their calendars should have been highly accurate. After 701 BC, evidently Earth's orbit increased 1/17 to 365.25 days, and the Moon's orbit decreased 1/17 to 29.5 days. End quote. Again, this was out of Science, Origins, and Ancient Civilizations. So we see from science they have discovered around 700 BC, 8th century BC is when an interesting change happened. But prior to this time, a calendar year was 360 days. Well, we read in 2 Kings 29, or 20, verse 9 through 11, and Isaiah said, This sign shalt thou have of the Lord, that the Lord will do the thing that he hath spoken. Shall the shadow go forward 10 degrees, or go back 10 degrees? And Hezekiah answered, It is the light thing for the shadow to go down 10 degrees. Nay, but let the shadow return backward 10 degrees. And Isaiah the prophet cried unto the Lord, and he brought the shadow 10 degrees backward, by which it had gone down in the dial of Ahaz. Now, why is it only 10 degrees? Why is it, why did God decide to move the sundial backwards 10 degrees? But again, why is it only 10 degrees? Well, I mean, there could be a couple of a couple of reasons. Number one, it might have changed the course of his of the Father's Sabbath day, which could have had a huge effect on things. But that could be one reason why it was only 10 degrees. There could be plenty of other reasons. I don't have time to get into it now. But in Isaiah 38, 7 and 8, also we pick up the same story. And this shall be a sign unto thee from the Lord, that the Lord will do this thing that he hath spoken. Behold, I will bring again the shadow of the degrees which is gone down in the sundial of Ahaz, 10 degrees backwards. So the sun returned 10 degrees, by which degrees it was gone down. Here we have what these older sundials look like. As as you can tell, they kind of were in the fashion of a staircase, okay, or steps. Now it's interesting that if you take the word degrees, which a modern sundial is round and would only show a 180-degree change for 12 hours. But the sundials from this time were not round, but a set of stairs that had two sides that stepped up towards each other and met in the middle. We don't know how many steps this particular sundial of Ahaz had. If it had 360 steps, then 20 minutes could be an accurate estimate. Why 360 steps? Well, the Hebrew in Isaiah can be translated literally as steps, but it can also mean degrees. So if the meaning were 10 degrees, and 360 degrees would equal 360 steps. A sundial positioned properly with 360 steps could tell you not only what hour of the day it was, but also what day of the year it was, if the year had 360 days, of course. Some commentaries on this sign of the sundial going backwards have said that it could have been due to sun refraction. Would the creator of the universe give a sign that could be confused with natural phenomenon? These commentaries would be written by people of little faith. Okay. Now, if we look at that word degrees in Isaiah 38, 9 and 10, we see that it could mean elevation, that is the act, to a higher place, figuratively a thought arising, the condition, literally a step or grade mark, figuratively a superiority of station, specifically a climactic progression in certain psalms, things that come up, high degrees, deal, go up, stairs, steps, story. And the Brown Driver Briggs definition is what comes up, thoughts, steps, stairs, steps of a sundial. Ascent, song of ascent, to the three great pilgrim feasts, psalm titles. Now the sundial, in Hebrew the degrees by or with the sun, or as the Hebrew might be rendered the steps of Ahaz. The researches of curious travelers in Hindustan observes BP Stock have lately discovered in that country 3 observatories of similar form, the most remarkable of which is to be seen within 4 miles of Delhi, the ancient capital of the Mughal Empire, a rectangle triangle whose hypotenuse is a staircase, apparently parallel to the axis of the earth, bisects a zone or coping of a wall, which wall connects the 2 terminating towers at right and left. The coping itself is of a circular form, and accurately graduated to mark by the gnomon above the sun's progress before and after noon. So clearly, we see that these ancient sundials were clearly in form of a huge staircase, if you will, or a step. Just like with our sundials you can just take a simple dial rod, stick it in the ground, and it'll form a hypotenuse triangle, essentially. Well, they actually had their sundials in that triangular shape, by which the shadow from the sun would go up and down, up or down, according to the time of the year that you were in. Whereas our modern day sundials, like I said, you could just stick a regular sundial into the ground, and once spring comes around, you won't see a shadow anymore. You won't see a shadow from the sun forming that triangle. It'll be exactly center of that dowel rod. But this is how they used the sundials back then. So it's pretty safe to assume that the sundial of Ahaz was in the form of basically a step, or a staircase, if you will. Okay? Now, do you know that in Daniel, God basically says that he can change the times and the seasons? Yes, in Daniel chapter 2, 20 verse 23, Daniel answered and said, Blessed be the name of God forever and ever, for wisdom and might are his. And he changeth the times and the seasons. He removeth kings, and setteth up kings. He giveth wisdom unto the wise, and knowledge to them that know understanding. He revealeth the deep and secret things. He knoweth what is in the darkness, and the light dwelleth with him. He changeth times and seasons. Now the word times can mean a set time, technically a year. So he could change the years. He could change the amount of days that are corresponding in a year. Right now we keep it 365. Prior to 700 or prior to the 8th century BC, they were keeping a 360-day year. So did God change the times? Well, obviously he must have. Seasons, which means a season, a time, a set time, season, spring, summer, fall. Do you know back around the time of creation, the spring equinox fell in April. Now, we look at the spring equinox now, it falls in late March. Obviously, God had something to do with it. You know, a lot of people in science will say, oh, that's that. Well, you know what? That's where faith comes in, folks. That's why we have a Bible. That's why we believe what the Bible says. These are his stars. These are his sun. This is his earth. It's his footstool. I think he can do whatever he wants with it as he so chooses. It's just we who believe in him and believe on the name of the only begotten Son, those that believe on him should be able to know these signs and be able to know that this is how he's talking to us. This is how he's talking to the world, but a lot of the world don't want to see it. Just like the whole blood moon phenomenon, this blood moon tetrad. You got John Hagee and Mark Blitz going off on a gun saying, oh, this, that, and this, and that, and the other. The Jews, this. Rapture going to happen because of this. Oh, yeah. But, folks, if you look clearly, it is not talking about a fulfillment of prophecy. These are signs or a warning of something to come. That's him talking to us through the stars. How did the Magi find Jesus when he was a baby? How did he know where he was? Well, obviously, they looked at the stars. They studied the stars. That's the whole aspect of the Star of Bethlehem. The signs and the warnings and everything are in the stars. So, did the Earth have a 360-day year with a 30-day lunar month? Within the last 3,000 years. Our year is actually 365.2422 days, and our lunar month from new moon to new moon is 29.531 days. So why did early civilization around the world use calendars with months of 30 days and years of 360 days? These calendars seemed to function well until sometime in the 8th century BC, when suddenly it became necessary to change them. Most civilizations around the world began to modify their calendars to allow for 5 extra days for the year and 6 fewer days for a lunar year. A lunar year is 12 full months. A modern lunar year is 354 days. Lunar year is basically just using the moon to dictate a year. 12 months times 29.5 days. Were these early civilizations incapable of accurately measuring the astronomical cycles that governed their calendars prior to the 8th century? The 8th century BC was a time between 799 BC to 700 BC. So let's look to the Bible in that period of time to see if we can find any changes mentioned. There are a number of books in the Bible that were written during this time: 2 Kings, Amos, Hosea, Micah, Isaiah. In the book of Isaiah, we find the story of the sundial going backwards. This is the earliest mention of a sundial in historical literature, by the way. Isaiah 38 tells us about Hezekiah, king of Judah, a man near death, told by Isaiah to put his house in order because God told Isaiah that Hezekiah would die and not live. Hezekiah prays to God, and God tells Isaiah that he has heard Hezekiah's prayer and will add 15 years to his life. God even says to Isaiah that he will give Hezekiah a sign that God will do this. And this shall be a sign from thee from the Lord, that the Lord will do this thing that he hath spoken. Behold, I will bring again the shadow of the degrees which is gone down in the sundial of Ahaz, 10 degrees backward, so the sun returned 10 degrees, by which degrees it was gone down. Or steps. 360-degree circle on the sundial divided by 12 hours of sunlight average per day equals 30 degrees per hour. 1/3 of an hour is 20 minutes. 10 degrees would equal 20 minutes. Now the Earth is orbiting the Sun at 29.79 kilometers per second, and has been doing so for many thousands of years. This constant speed of 29.79 kilometers per second means that to make one orbit of the Sun, one complete circle, will take 365.2422 days. If we speed up the orbit of the Earth to 30.223 if we speed up the orbit of the Earth to 30.22379 kilometers per second, we would end up with a year that is 360 days long. This is if we were to speed up the orbit of the Earth. So what happened? Well, obviously the speed of the orbit of the Earth must have slowed down. If we had a year, not that the Earth rotated backwards or anything like that, because if that happened, yeah, that would be very bad. That's all I have to say. If we had a year of 360 days and slowed the orbit of the Earth from 30.22379 kilometers per second back to 29.79 kilometers per second, then the year would equal our current solar year of 365.2422 days per year. The difference in speed between 365.2422 days per year and 360 days per year is equal to, get this folks, remember how the 10 degrees will equal to? It equal to 20 minutes? Now pay attention. The difference in speed between 365.2422 days per year and 360 days per year is equal to 20.9688 minutes per day. This is not a difference in our 24-hour time period, but it would take the Earth 20.9688 minutes less time per day to travel that same distance in the orbit around the Sun. So, if you would take 365.2422 days minus 20.9688 minutes per day, you come up with 360 days. This is the amount of days per year that was kept before the sundial incident. Again, 360 degrees is in a circle on the sundial. Divide that by 12 hours of sunlight average per day equals 30 degrees per hour. 1/3 of an hour equals 20 minutes. 10 degrees would equal 20 minutes. So if you had a year equal 360 days per year and slowed the orbit of the Earth around the Sun by 0.433792 kilometers per second, the difference between 30.22379 kilometers per second and 29.79 kilometers per second, you would end up with a year that takes 365.2422 days. This slower speed would cause 5.2422 days extra per year to make one complete revolution around the Sun. It's just a simple matter of slowing down the orbit of the Earth around the Sun and speeding up the orbit of the Earth around the Sun. There's no time dilation or anything extraordinary here. We have only slowed the speed of the Earth down. We have not changed the spin of the Earth in a 24-hour period, and we have not changed the speed of the Moon around the Earth. However, if the Earth had a 360-day per year, however, if the Earth had a 360-day per year, which equals Earth's orbital speed of 30.22379 kilometers per second, the Moon would now automatically have a 30-day lunar month without changing the speed of the orbit of the Moon. Okay? So if you're confused, let me elaborate on this. With our modern calendars, the Moon takes about 27.3 days to make one complete orbit around the Earth with relation to the stars. But the Earth is also moving around the Sun, dragging the Moon with it. The Earth orbits around the Sun once every 365.2422 days, which equals Earth's orbit speed of 29.79 kilometers per second. The Earth and Moon in 27.3 days have moved as a system about 1/12 of the ways around the Sun. This means that from one full moon to the next full moon, the Moon must travel 2.2 extra days before it appears full. This is due to the curves of the Earth's orbit around the Sun. The Moon is still making one complete orbit, which is a circle, in 27.3 days. But to line up with the Earth and Sun to become a full moon again, it takes 29.531 days. Now, if we take 29.531 day lunar months times 12 lunar months, we come up to 354.372 days per lunar year. A difference of 10.87 days a year between a lunar year and a solar year of 365.2422 days per year. Now, if we did not speed up the orbit of the Earth, but had current speed of 29.79 kilometers per second, and let the Earth travel half a day further, then after 29.9 days we see that the Moon has gone half a day past the full moon. To achieve a full moon, the Moon must be in a straight line with the middle of the Earth and the Sun. With a calendar of 360 days per year, if we change nothing else except to increase the speed of the Earth's orbit to 30.22379 kilometers per second to achieve a 360-day year, then the time it takes from one full moon to the next full moon would be 29.96785 days, or 30 days. The Moon would still be making one complete orbit every 27.3 days, but the Moon would now need to travel 2.6785 extra days added to the 27.3 days to become full again. Now, if we take 29.96785 day months times 12 months, we come up to 359.6142, rounded up to 360 days per lunar year. A difference of 9 hours a year between a lunar year and a solar year of exactly 360 days per year. By adjusting the speed of the Earth around the Sun to give us a rear of 360 days, we automatically end up with a month that equals 30 days. Exactly 29.96785 days. It just so happens that all ancient calendars had 12 30-day months, which equaled 360 days. These ancient calendars also had one solar year equals 360 days. All these 360 days solar lunar year calendars suddenly began to change in the 8th century BC to either a 365-day solar year or a lunar year of 354 days per year, or both, which match our modern calendars today. In the 8th century BC, the Bible tells us the sun moved backwards on the sundial. Our calculations estimate that this distance on the sundial would equal about 20 minutes. A miracle so subtle you would only notice if you were watching a sundial. The difference between a 360-day year with a 30-day month and our 365.2422 day year with a 29.531 day month is orbital speed, which can also be translated into time, about 20 minutes extra per day. Which again equates to how many degrees, which is 10 degrees, the sun moved back on the sundial of Ahaz. And if you do the calculations of the Earth's rotation, or the Earth's orbit around the sun and the moon, it comes up to a change of 20 minutes per day, which equals to 365 days per solar lunar year. And that began to change. Bam! Right there around that time of the sundial miracle. Now, during the time of the flood, Noah tells us that 150 days started on the 17th day of the second month and ended on the 17th day of the 7th month. You can see that in Genesis 7:11. Let's look at that. In the 600th year of Noah's life, in the second month, the 17th day of the month, the same day were all the fountains of the great deep broken up, and the windows of heaven were opened, and the waters prevailed upon the earth 150 days. And the waters returned from off the earth continually, and after the end of the 150 days the waters were abated. And the ark rested in the 7th month on the 17th day of the month upon the mountains of Ararat. Now if we take 150 days divided by 30 days per month, which equals 5 months. 30 days times 12 months equals 360 days. So, back in the time of Genesis, how long was a year? 360 days. Now, interestingly enough, Earth may be headed for a 360-day year again. Yes, I said it. We might be headed for a 360-day year again. If you read in Daniel 7:25, Revelation 11:2, Revelation 13:5, Revelation 11:3, Revelation 12:6, we see the aspects of 1,260 days, 42 months, time times and a half a time. Again, 42 months. What does this equal to? This equals to 3.5 years. You can only get this if you have a 360-day year, solar year, or calendar year. That is the only way you can get 3.5 years. You cannot get 3.5 years on 365 days. It is impossible. The only way you can get 3.5 years or 1,260 days is if something happened to where we went back to a 360-day year. Okay, Daniel 7:25, and he shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and think to change times and laws, and they shall be given into his hand until a time and times and the dividing of time. Revelation 11:2, but the court which is without the temple leave out, and measure it not, for it is given unto the Gentiles, and the holy city shall they tread under foot 42 months. 3.5 years. And there was given unto him a mouth speaking great things and blasphemies, and power was given unto him to continue 42 months. 3.5 years. And I will give power unto my 2 witnesses, and they shall prophesy 1,260 days, clothed in sackcloth, or 1,260 days, or 3.5 years. And the woman fled into the wilderness, where she hath a place prepared of God, that they should feed her there 1,260 days, or 1,260 days, or 3.5 years. To achieve a 30-day month, the Earth's orbit around the sun must be sped up so a year would equal 360 days. Now here's Jesus speaking on the tribulation. For then shall be great tribulation, such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time, no, nor ever shall be. Question: during Jesus' time, was it a 365-day year? Absolutely, because it was around 8th century BC is when it changed from a 360-day year to a 365-day year. Now pay attention to the next verse. And except those days should be shortened, there should no flesh be saved. But for the elect's sake, those days shall be shortened. And again, Matthew 24:37, but as the days of Noah were, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. Folks, I believe what the Sundial of Ahaz incident in Isaiah is telling us is that there's also a prophetic significance in the times that we are living in. Again, you cannot get 1,260 days on 365 days a year. Something is going to happen, and I can almost guarantee you it's probably going to, this is something you ain't going to be able to hide. Something's going to happen to where the Earth's orbit speeds up to where we are now in a 360-day year. I don't think it's going to be something of a mystery that we're going to have to figure out. I got a feeling it'll be something that's going to be widespread on the internet. It'll probably be widespread on the news. Be like, hey, what's going on here? Something major happened, and now we're back to 360 days a year. I think it'll be very perfectly clear that once these days are shortened to 360 days per year, we will know that we have 3.5 years left until the second coming of Christ. But as the days of Noah were, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. Folks, again, time is important. The sun, the moon, the stars are very important in telling time. Isn't it interesting that you cannot get 1,260 days in a 365-day year? You can't get it. You can't do it. You can only get it unless the orbit of the Earth is sped up 5 days to where we go back to a 360 days year. What does it say? Declaring, I am God, there is none like me. Declaring the end from the beginning. Very interesting times we live in, folks. I want to thank you for listening. Truth be told, truth be known. Stay safe. God bless. We will see you next time. Bye-bye.